It is great speaking and writing your native language with competence. According to philosophers, linguists, and social linguists, we dissect the nature around us along the lines laid down by our languages. So it is of great asset to know how to speak and write your native language. And let me share with you some of the appalling observations that I had, some of the things that I noticed among our people. You find Okpameri people, natives of Okpameri, for example, a woman from Ibilo married to a man from Makeke, or a woman from Boshi married to a man from Imoga. They live together as two native Okpameri speakers. Unfortunately, their children cannot speak Okpameri. They speak English and Pidgin, or a mixture of English and Pidgin. They cannot speak perfect English. They cannot also speak perfect Pidgin. They mix them up. And when you ask some of them, they tell you, I want them to quickly know how to speak and write in English so that they can be very intelligent at school or in school. That is not correct. That is not correct at all. A human being acquires the language of his environment first. That language spoken at home is the first one that a human being acquires. When you prevent your children from acquiring your native language, it's going to leave a psychological, a social psychological gap permanently for life. All over the world, children and people acquire or learn languages in three environments. One, there are those who are born in their native ancestral cultural environments, and accordingly, they acquire their parents' tongue or their mother's tongue, and they become very proficient. By age 5, they already can speak proficiently in their mother's tongue. Like a native of Pameri born at Ibilo, Oja, Lampese, Bushi, etc. They should be able, within the first 5 years of their lives, acquire the language and speak perfectly. They may not be able to write it because it has not been standardized. It is the standardization that we are doing now. That is the number one way in which people acquire languages. Then two, we have those in diaspora, those who are out of their native environment. For example, we're talking about Okpameri now. If you're an Okpameri child and you're born outside Okpameri villages, it means that you are in diaspora. Diasporal natives can be divided into three types. We have those who are outside their villages but within their local government. For example, you are an Okpameri child, but you were born and raised at Igara or Enwa or Okpe. So you are outside your village or your town. The likelihood is that you're going to acquire Okpe, or you are going to acquire Etuno Igara as your first language, but not your native language or mother's tongue. Okay? But the tendency is that your parents in that environment may be speaking English to you, and you end up not acquiring your native language. The second type of those in diaspora are those who are outside their village, outside their local government, but within their state of origin. For example, you are from Ibilo, okay, you are from Akoko Edo, but you are not in Ibilo, you are not in Akoko Edo, you are in Esan land or Esako or Edo or Onwa. the likelihood is that you are going to interact with the language of your environment, and you end up speaking Onwa or Ura or Afuzi or Otuo or Esako, okay, or Esan. If your parents do not speak the native Okpameri to you at home, that's what it's going to be. You will acquire those languages in addition to the English that is used to formally teach you from primary to secondary school. The third type and the highest form of people in diaspora are those who are abroad. You are in America, you are in London, you are in Paris, okay, you are far away removed from your native environments totally. So the question of coming in contact with your native language does not arise. Therefore, you'll end up learning or acquiring a foreign language. But if you have your parents there, or you have those who can speak your language there and they speak it with you right from when you're young, you also end up acquiring your language. It's surprising and disappointing that children who are born in a Okpameri environment and an Ojerami child whose father is Ojerami and mother Oza, they are in that environment, the child cannot speak Oza variety, cannot speak Ojerami variety. To say the least, it's appalling. But because it is not illness, because it is not an accident, okay, we are not conscious of the effect. But the effect is for a lifetime. Number one, a child learns with the language of his environment. If you really want to know what they are missing, just touch some objects and ask them what it is in English. They are not going to be able to even tell you the English name, yet it is English that they have acquired as their first language, not their native language. So the children end up being imperfect in English, imperfect in their language, imperfect in pidgin, and therefore imperfect in all the languages they are going to come across later. They do not have any original language in their LAD, what we call LAD. LAD is language acquisition device. That is the machine that processes language in the brain. It's called LAD. They do not have a native LAD to access other languages, and therefore that will create in what I would call linguistic lacuna or linguistic gap in their brains. The other thing is that there's what we call language and mind. What do they use to process thoughts and the environment in their minds? That is very important. There is almost an inseparable relationship between language and culture. Let me give you an example that happened at Lankwese. Between me and a group of interactants, those I was speaking with. We are all native Okpameri speakers. Just a very simple, harmless statement as wa me. I think something happened. Either the person ate bread or something, didn't drink water. And then someone said wa me. So we burst into laughter immediately, because that means one man in Okpameri means you didn't drink water. But there is a socio-cultural significance and meaning attached to one man in Okpameri that only native Okpameri speakers, not even just native Okpameri speakers, native Okpameri speakers who grew up in Okpameri will understand. That's the beauty of native language, because there is a different, apart from just meaning what you didn't drink water, there's something cultural about it. There is a practice with it which has to do with witchcraft. So a very beautiful way, or a euphemistic way of describing a dead witch is that one man, that is, he didn't drink water, meaning he's a witch. So the man who told his friend, say one man, is teasing him that, you see, you are a witch, you don't drink water. And we laughed over it. So that's the beauty of language. You cannot prevent your children who are in your native environment from speaking your language. Who told you? Who told you that it's when your child acquires English first that is going to make him a genius in school? It's not true. We all went to school. We spoke our languages. In fact, the average Akoko Edo person is known as a polyglot. A polyglot is someone who speaks several languages. For example, you see an Okpameri person or an Etuno person or an Uneme person who understands Okpameri and Uneme vice versa, who also speak Hausa, who speaks Egbira, who speaks Ososo, who speaks Etuno. So, if your children are far away, maybe overseas or very far from Okpameri language environment, we will understand if they do not acquire Okpameri language. But children that are or were born and bred and trained by their native Okpameri parents at home in any of our villages, they have no reason, no excuse. Therefore, the conclusion is teach your children Okpameri language. Create the enabling environment for them to acquire your language.